Have you ever pushed yourself up from the mattress, felt your legs wobble under you, and thought, "This feels new. Surely I was steadier than this last year"? You shuffle toward the kitchen, palms sliding across furniture just in case, and when you finally wrap your fingers around a glass of water, you notice the rim trembling against your lips. No throbbing pain, no dramatic injury, just an unsettling sense that strength has leaked out overnight, like sand slipping through an unseen crack. Most mornings you shrug. Tell yourself it's normal for someone who has celebrated more than 6 decades of birthdays, and carry on. Yet a small, persistent voice keeps asking, what if that wobble isn't ordinary at all? That question found Mrs. Lon one quiet Tuesday. She had always prided herself on carrying the laundry basket in one trip, but that morning the basket felt as heavy as her grandson's suitcase. Mid-staircase she paused, heart knocking, laundry detergent scent mingling with a sudden fear. If I can't trust my own legs today, what will fail me tomorrow? The doctor later called it sarcopenia, an elegant word that simply means her muscles were shrinking faster than her years could justify. He explained it gently. After 50, the body begins to recycle muscle tissue for spare parts, and unless we offer it the right raw materials, the recycling accelerates. Mrs. Lon heard only one phrase echoing in her mind, shrinking faster than she deserved. Perhaps you've never heard the word sarcopenia. Many doctors mention it quickly, as if it were an academic footnote, but the World Health Organization has now stamped it as an official disease, one that can steal a full third of your muscle mass by age 60 if left unchallenged. It doesn't howl like arthritis or flash warnings like high blood pressure. It whispers, first a longer rise from the couch, then a missed step on the curb, then an arm that strains to lift a grocery bag. When sarcopenia takes enough, independence itself begins to wobble. That is the grim news, and it lands like a weight on the chest. But stay with me, because buried in that diagnosis is an invitation more hopeful than any pill bottle's promise. Harvard researchers followed adults in their 70s who did nothing fancy. No gym memberships, no fluorescent powders. Just shifted a handful of foods onto their plates. In 6 short weeks, 91% regained measurable muscle. Many felt steadier than they had a decade earlier. Imagine the delight of waking up and feeling your legs answer firmly, "Yes, we're ready," instead of negotiating with gravity. Food, it turns out, can be a stronger architect than time is a thief. We have inherited a powerful myth that muscle loss is destiny, carved in granite on the birthday cake the day we hit 50. Let's sand that myth down together. Your body is not a crumbling monument. It is a living workshop. Every night as you sleep, millions of fibers wait like diligent builders, ready to weave themselves stronger, if only they receive the right bricks and mortar. Those building blocks are not rare. They live in ordinary bowls of oats, in the dusty bag of quinoa you've been meaning to open, in the cottage cheese tub tucked behind the strawberries. Mrs. Land discovered that truth, spoonful by spoonful, and within a month she carried that laundry basket without pausing, humming an old lullaby as she climbed the stairs. Perhaps you're wondering whether it is already too late for you. Pause here, hand on your heart, and feel the thrum beneath your palm. That beat is your body's quiet pledge. I am still rebuilding. The blueprint may change with age, but the construction never halts unless we starve the workers. Today, we begin feeding them. Before we dive into the pantry, notice this gentle shift happening inside you. The fear that clenched your stomach a few minutes ago has softened into curiosity. Curiosity is the wedge that pries open change. Keep it wide. because what comes next could add not just years to your life, but strength to every one of those years. Brown rice, quinoa, walnuts, blueberries, flax, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, salmon, lean cuts of meat. 9 ordinary foods that carry extraordinary instructions for your muscle cells. Over the next sessions, we'll meet each one like an old friend returning with gifts. But for tonight, linger with a single thought. Muscle is far more obedient than most people believe. Give it the appropriate signal. Proteins rich in leucine, omega-3 oils that tame inflammation, antioxidants that sweep away the rubble, and it responds like a garden after rain. Mrs. Land planted her first seeds with a spoonful of Greek yogurt before bed. You might choose blueberries folded into morning oatmeal. Tiny gestures, yes, yet they whisper the same message to every fiber. Grow back, we still have places to go. So wrap your hands once more around that glass of water. Notice how they steady when hope flushes through the veins. In the next part, we'll walk through the subtle fingerprints of sarcopenia so you can spot them early, and more importantly, we'll lay the first brick of your rebuilding plan. Stay close. What you learn may rewrite the story your muscles are telling right now. Thus, when morning light spills across the curtains, you swing your legs over the mattress and wait, just long enough to discover whether they will listen. Some days they obey, solid and certain. Other days they hesitate, as if the signal from brain to muscle has been written in fading ink. That hesitation is the quiet signature of sarcopenia. It rarely announces itself with trumpets. Instead, it leaves small calling cards, the kind you might have picked up this week without naming them. Perhaps you noticed the toilet seat felt lower, not because the fixture shrank, but because your thighs needed an extra heartbeat to launch you upright. Or you paused halfway through the supermarket aisle to shift the detergent to your other hand. Maybe you tightened the stair rail a little too firmly when your grandson darted ahead. None of these moments were dramatic enough to warrant a doctor's visit. Yet, together, they sketch the outline of muscle that is thinning almost invisibly. Doctors love numbers, so let's borrow a few, not to frighten you, but to give shape to something we can conquer. Harvard's longitudinal study of aging shows that after 50, the average adult loses 0.5 to 1% of skeletal muscle each year. Picture a fresh loaf sliced in two, suddenly gone by your 60th birthday. More sobering, grip strength tests reveal that decline often begins in the 40s, long before gray hair offers any hint. But here is the number that matters more than all the rest. When researchers increased protein quality and frequency at meals, plus added a sprinkling of anti-inflammatory nutrients, muscle loss slowed by 2/3, and in many participants reversed. The slide is not a cliff, it is a ramp, and ramps can be climbed. Let's walk the ramp together, beginning with your hands. If you grip a jar lid and feel a dull burn before the seal pops, that is strength slipping. Forearm muscle fibers are small, yet they tell a large story because they regenerate fastest when given the right signals. In clinical trials, volunteers who consumed 25 grams of mixed leucine-rich protein at breakfast, a shake or a cup of cottage cheese with walnuts, improved grip force in 6 weeks. Their secret wasn't exotic, it was consistency. Muscles do not care whether the building blocks arrive in porcelain plates or paper bowls. They care only that they arrive often. Move next to your thighs, those mighty pistons that carried groceries, danced at weddings, and braced grandchildren perched on laps. The telltale here is rising speed. Time yourself standing from a standard chair, no arm assist. If it takes longer than 2 seconds, fasten your attention there. Scientists call this the chair stand test, and it predicts fall risk more accurately than bone density scans. Do not let that sentence discourage you. Let it empower you. Mrs. Lan failed her first chair stand. She added 2 tablespoons of ground flax to oatmeal each dawn, omega-3 oil to soften inflammation, and practiced slow squats while brushing her teeth. At her next check-in, she rose in a single breath. Now consider balance. You may think balance belongs to inner ear labyrinths and eyesight, but muscle fibers around the ankle are guardians of equilibrium. When they atrophy, bumps in the sidewalk turn into hazards. Try standing on one foot while folding laundry. If you wobble, do not scold yourself. Simply recognize the ankle's plea for nutritional reinforcement. Blueberries can help, truly. Their anthocyanins rush antioxidants into micro-tears, created by daily walking, accelerating repair, so fibers fire more quickly the next time you correct a sway. In a Tufts University trial, elders who ate a cup of berries a day shortened post-exercise soreness and improved single-leg stance by 20%. All these sin, slow rise, weak grip, shaky footing, are reversible because the underlying machinery is still present. Think of your muscles as an orchestra that has misplaced a few instruments. The conductor remains, baton poised, waiting for fresh violins to arrive. Each bite of quality protein delivers a new violin. Each spoonful of omega-3 oil polishes the bow. Every antioxidant tune-up sharpens the strings. Within weeks, the music swells again. Let's pause for a needed confession. Food alone is not a miracle if served on a plate of inactivity. Muscles require invitation to use their new tools. Yet, the invitation need not look like a gym membership. Mrs. Lan adopted what she called her stair whisper. Every time she passed the bottom step, she paused, climbed once, up and down, then continued her chores. 10 whispers a day became 100 gentle lunges. Pair that with protein, and you have the twin engines of regeneration. Perhaps doubt still curls at the edge of your mind. I'm already 75. Does the body still listen? A study from the University of Birmingham answered with a resounding yes. They placed volunteers aged 83 into a modest resistance routine, elastic bands, no iron weights, and provided 28 grams of protein at each meal. In 12 weeks, their muscle fibers thickened as much as those of 30-year-old participants on the same plan. Age slows repair. It does not silence it. So here is your gentle homework before we meet again. Tomorrow, notice how long it takes you to stand from breakfast. Note whether you grip the mug differently than a decade ago. Then place a single reinforcement on the table, perhaps a serving of quinoa under your vegetables, or a spoon of Greek yogurt beside your fruit. Tiny, deliberate, repeated. Write the time it takes to rise next to the menu. That journal will become your proof, as Mrs. Lan's became hers, that the ramp can tilt upward. Keep curiosity alive, because Part 3 will introduce the first 4 foods in our rescue squad, each woven into real stories, each simple enough to find at the nearest market. One of them may already sit in your pantry waiting to reclaim its role in your orchestra. Stay with me. Your muscles have been waiting for their cue, and the overture is about to begin. Mrs. Dory began her rescue with a humble grain that many relatives dismissed as too earthy for their polished plates. She remembered her childhood in the countryside, steam rising from bowls of nut-scented brown rice, while cicadas sang outside the bamboo shutters. Back then, she ate it because it was all the family could afford. Now, decades later, she returned to it as a deliberate gift to her legs. That first evening, she scooped one small cup into the rice cooker, added water, and let the familiar aroma drift through the kitchen. When the timer dinged, she paired the chewy kernels with stir-fried bok choy and a sliver of grilled chicken. Halfway through biting, she felt almost silly. Could this simple, slightly nutty grain truly matter? Yet 45 minutes later, as she climbed the stairs to fetch her knitting, there was no sudden wave of exhaustion, no urge to sit halfway. The energy felt slow and steady, like a candle that would burn evenly till bedtime. The next morning, curiosity nudged her toward an article she had clipped years earlier, but never bothered to read. It explained how brown rice, still wearing its bran coat, breaks down leisurely, keeping blood sugar as even as the shoreline on a calm day. No sugar spike, no crash. Muscles fed on that steady stream rather than scrambling for fuel, and magnesium hiding in the grain's germ kept each contraction crisp, preventing the cramps that sometimes woke her at 3 a.m. She closed the article and smiled. Last night's calm climb had not been her imagination. A week later, Mr. Heaven from across the lane stopped by to borrow soy sauce. He noticed the pot of rice cooling on the counter and laughed. "My grandson calls that bird feed," he teased. Mrs. Dory offered him a spoonful. He chewed, shrugged, then took another. Before leaving, he asked where she bought it. The next Thursday, 2 brown rice pots steamed on the street, hers and his, camaraderie puffing in the evening air like twin locomotives. Yet she sensed her body needed more than energy. It craved fresh bricks to rebuild the walls that Sarcopenia had thinned. That craving arrived in the guise of tiny ivory seeds she had seen only in health food aisles, quinoa. They reminded her of miniature pearls, and truth be told, she felt intimidated. But the promise of a complete protein in a plant intrigued her. So she rinsed half a cup, let the seeds simmer until they curled into translucent commas, then folded them into a salad of tomatoes and mint. The first spoonful tasted slightly grassy, the second almost buttery. By the third, she pictured each seed as a courier delivering 9 precious letters, those essential amino acids, and felt an entirely childish delight. 3 days into her quinoa experiment, she attempted the chair stand test again. This time, she rose in a single breath, paused, and sat back down, just to prove it wasn't luck. Amino acid couriers had reached their destination. Encouraged, she phoned her niece, Mai, who was vegetarian, and forever touting quinoa. Mai squealed, "Auntie, welcome to the club!" Then suggested cooking it in vegetable broth for extra flavor. Mrs. Dory jotted the tip beside a sticky note that read simply, "Trust the grains." Grains laid a foundation, but something richer, earthier, was still missing, like the sturdy beams of an old pagoda. The answer arrived with a knock at the door. Little Bao, Mr. Heaven's grandson, held out a small paper sack. "Grandpa says these will make your knees happy." Inside nested walnuts, their shells resembling tiny brains. She cracked one open, tasted the mild bitterness, and felt the oil coat her tongue. Omega-3. She had heard that word on television commercials about heart health, but never linked it to muscles. That night, she crushed 2 walnuts and sprinkled them over brown rice porridge. Warm oils streaked through the cereal, and a gentle satiety settled into her belly. Weeks passed. Autumn arrived. Mornings grew crisp, and with them came the old ache in her fingers that usually flared with cooler weather. Strangely, this year, the ache murmured rather than shouted. Curious, she searched her notebook. Walnuts, it said, lower cortisol. the body's silent stress siren that eats muscle for fuel. Perhaps the nut's bitterness was simply its way of reminding her medicine does not always taste like honey. To keep momentum, she set a playful challenge: add one new color to every meal. At first, it felt like a child's game, until she noticed her plate brightening into a painter's palette, and along came energy that felt younger than her gray hairs admitted. Her favorite hue became the midnight blue of blueberries. She tossed a handful onto Greek yogurt one evening and watched their indigo skins bleed gentle violets into the white. Each berry burst against her teeth with a pop that reminded her of childhood marbles clacking in pockets. What she couldn't see were the anthocyanins slipping into blood vessels, sweeping away free radicals that gnawed at tired muscle fibers. The real test arrived on market day. She carried 2 woven bags instead of 1: pears, cabbage, sweet potatoes, and, on impulse, a small watermelon. Halfway home, she realized she was humming, not puffing, not pausing to rest on the shady bench beside the tailor's shop, but humming. At home, she checked her step counter. She had surpassed her usual daily tally, and her shoulders remained relaxed. She set the bags down, looked at her hands, no tremor, and laughed aloud. Mr. Heaven heard the laugh, poked his head through the gate, and raised an eyebrow. She told him about the color challenge and the humming walk. He tilted his head. "I'd say the walnuts and wild blueberries are playing somewhere inside you," he mused. Then he added, "Shall we share a bowl after dinner?" That evening, 2 neighbors, 70 and 74, sat on the stoop passing a small bowl of berries and nuts between them, the streetlight casting gentle halos on their silver hair. Before bed, she opened her journal. Under yesterday's chair stand time, she wrote, "Tonight carried groceries 2 blocks without a sigh." Underneath, she added a promise. "Tomorrow, try staircase twice after breakfast." She closed the book, knowing each line documented invisible fibers thickening silently in thighs and shoulders and forearms. If at this point you're wondering whether 4 foods could truly make such a difference, hold that wonder tight. It is the question that keeps the door open. Remember this pattern: steady fuel from brown rice making energy last, complete protein from quinoa stitching tears, anti-inflammatory oils in walnuts calming the demolition crew, antioxidant guardians in blueberries repairing micro damage faster than age can accumulate it. 4 beams already lifting the roof. And we have 5 more allies waiting in the wings, some slow releasing through the night, some swimming in cold northern seas, some sizzling under a lean cut of meat. So take a moment now, open your cupboard or fridge, choose one of the 4 if it is already there, or jot it on tomorrow's shopping list. When you taste it, picture Mrs. Dory humming down the lane, grocery bags
Across
swaying
the
like
vast
proof that
tapestry of our
ordinary
planet,
food still holds
there
extraordinary
exists a
power.
treasure trove of
Then meet me in
breathtaking
part 4,
sights,
where nighttime cottage
each more
cheese,
mesmerizing than
probiotic
the
yogurts,
last.
flax
From
seeds like
soaring
flecks of
mountain
sunrise,
peaks to
and salmon
otherworldly
rich
deserts,
with underwater light join the
ancient
chorus,
wonders
tuning your
crafted by
muscles for the years ahead.
civilizations long past,
Stay curious.
to natural
The symphony is
spectacles
only
forged
half
over
played.
eons.
Night settled over the neighborhood
The
with a
earth
hush
is
so
adorned
deep
with wonders
the street
that
lamps
stir the
seemed to
soul
hold
and
their
ignite
breath.
the imagination.
Inside her kitchen, Mrs. Harper
Embark
stood at the
on a
refrigerator
journey
in
as
soft
we
lamplight,
explore some of the
considering how to
most
carry the day's
beautiful
momentum into the
sightseeing
long, silent
destinations
hours
in the
ahead.
world.
She
A
remembered an old
celebration
trainer
of
once
nature's
saying,
marvels and
"Muscles
humanity's
aren't built
enduring
in the
legacy
gym.
begin
They're built
with the
while you
majesty
sleep,
of the
if you
Grand
feed them."
Canyon in Arizona,
With that
United
thought, she
States.
reached for a small tub of cottage
Standing at
cheese,
its rim,
the kind her mother
visitors
used
are
to spoon
captivated
over
by
sliced
layers of
peaches in
crimson
July.
and ochre.
Back then, it was
A
simply
vast
dessert.
chasm
Tonight, it would be
sculpted over
something far
millions of
more
years by the
intentional.
relentless
She measured
Colorado
half
River.
a cup into a bowl, added a
At
drizzle of honey,
sunrise and
and
sunset,
stirred until the
the
curds
canyon
shimmered.
transforms into
Cottage
a
cheese is
kaleidoscope
rich
of
in
color.
casein, a
Shadows
slow-digesting
dancing across
protein that
rock
seeps
faces,
amino acids into the
deepening
bloodstream
its seeming
all through the
mystery.
night, like a drip
The
irrigation
overwhelming
line
scale,
nourishing garden roots.
277 miles long,
More than once,
up to
she had
18
woken at
miles
3
wide,
a.m. with her
and
calves
over a mile
cramping.
deep,
Since introducing this
leaves an
bedtime
indelible
ritual, those
impression,
cramps had vanished,
reminding
replaced
us of
by a
nature's
gentle
power
warmth that lingered
and
in her legs
patience.
until morning. She took the
Hiking
bowl to
into
the
its
window seat,
depths along
watched a
winding
raccoon
trails,
tiptoe along
or
the fence,
viewing it from
and felt
above in a
each spoonful as a
helicopter.
promise
The
whispered to
Grand
every
Canyon
strand
offers
of
a
muscle
profound
fiber.
perspective
You
on
will
time
not
and
go
scale.
hungry tonight.
Venture
The
next
following
to the
afternoon, she
ethereal
visited
beauty
her daughter
of
Claire,
Canada's
who
Banff
was
National
whisking
Park.
smoothie ingredients into a blender for the
In
grandchildren.
the heart of the
Claire
Canadian
dropped
Rockies,
a tablespoon of ground
turquoise
flaxseed into the
lakes
mix.
like Lake Louise
Mrs.
and
Harper
Moraine
raised an
Lake
eyebrow.
glisten with
Claire
glacial
tapped the flax
meltwater,
jar.
framed
Tiny
by
seeds,
snow-capped
huge payoff,
peaks and
omega-3s,
lush forests.
lignans, all the good
Walking
stuff.
along the shimmering
She poured a
shores or
glass for her
canoeing
mother.
across
The drink
mirror-like
tasted of
surface.
berries and a
The
hint of
tranquility
nutty
is
earth.
absolute.
Within minutes,
Alpine
Mrs. Harper
meadows
sensed
bloom in
that
summer,
familiar,
and
settled
wildlife,
feeling Flax
from
always
elk
brought,
to grizzly
as though
bears,
inflammation
roam
itself had
freely,
inhaled slowly,
enriching the
exhaled,
landscape with
and
life
decided to
and
behave.
mystery.
She remembered reading
In
that
winter,
the alpha-linolenic
crystalline
acid
snow
hidden in those
transforms the
dusty
park
flecks
into a
converts,
serene,
however
icy
inefficiently, into the
drawing
same
skiers
long-chain
and snowshoers to
omega-3s
its slopes
found in
and valleys.
cold-water fish.
In Europe,
Add
the
to that
Swiss
the
Alps
seed's
soar
gentle
as a
fiber,
symbol of
which
natural
kept her
grandeur.
digestion regular
Jagged
and
summits,
nutrient absorption
cloaked in
steady.
snow,
And she
pierce the
realized
sky
they were
above
more than a
verdant
garnish.
valleys and
They were a
charming mountain
quiet
villages.
defense line at the gate.
The Matterhorn,
That night, she
with its
ran a
iconic
small
pyramid
experiment.
shape,
Alongside
stands a
her cottage
sentinel over
cheese,
Zermatt,
she stirred in a teaspoon of
challenging
flax.
alpinists and
The mixture
enchanting
wasn't pretty,
travelers,
but taste mattered less
Cable
than the
cars
biochemical
ascend to
symphony it would
sweeping
conduct
vistas,
while she slept.
while
She
wildflowers
imagined
and
casein
cows
proteins
with
lining
melodic
up like
bells
delivery trucks,
dot the
each
meadows
truck
below.
now driving
Whether
alongside a
hiking
fleet
in
of
summer
flaxseed
or skiing
mechanics
in winter,
ready to repair
the
oxidative
Alps
dents
offer
before morning.
panoramic views
She
that
slept
seem to
deeply,
stretch on forever.
dreams awash with the
And the
hum of
clean
engines and
mountain
tiny
air
wrenches turning,
invigorates
days
every
shortened,
sense.
leaves
Continue
blushed
into Italy,
amber,
where the
and soup
Amalfi
season
Coast
returned.
captivates with
At the
its
grocery
cliffside
store, she paused at the
villages
seafood
and
counter,
cerulean
eyes
seas.
settling on salmon fillets
From
shimmering like
Positano's
sunset under glass.
pastel-hued houses,
Once upon a
cascading
time,
down to
she'd
pebble
shied away
beaches,
from salmon.
to the
Too fishy,
historic
too
charm
pricey.
of Amalfi and
But an
Ravello.
article in the American Journal of
This
Clinical
coastline
Nutrition
is a
had shifted
masterpiece
her
of
thinking.
color,
2
scent,
servings of
and
fatty
taste.
fish a week, rich
Lemon
in
groves
EPA
and scented
and
gardens
DHA,
line
could
narrow
boost
lanes,
muscle protein synthesis and
panoramic
quiet
terraces
joint pain
offer
better than
views of
some
the
over-the-counter
endless
pills.
Mediterranean
She
blue.
placed 2 fillets in her basket,
Small
added a
boats
can of
bob in
sardines
hidden
for good
coves,
measure, and felt
and a
as though she
winding
tucked
coastal
gold
road
coins into her
offers
purse.
glimpses of
Back home,
expansive
she
sea,
seasoned the salmon with lemon
legendary
and dill,
sunsets,
slid it into the
and
oven,
endless
and
romance.
watched through the window as the
Travel
flesh
east to
turned
Asia
coral pink
to
and
discover
began
the
to flake.
otherworldliness of
While it
Ha Long
roasted,
Bay in
she mixed a
Vietnam.
quick sauce of Greek
Here,
yogurt, garlic, and
Thousands
chopped
of
parsley.
limestone islands
Greek
thrust
yogurt had become her
skyward from
noontime
emerald
staple.
waters.
It's 20 grams
Their
of protein
surfaces
bolstered by
clothed in lush
probiotics that calmed her
vegetation.
gut, and
Cruising among these
indirectly,
islands,
the
one
systemic
feels
inflammation that once
transported
made
to
her
a world
knees feel
born of
ancient.
myth and legend.
Tonight, it would serve as a
Hidden
cool
lagoons,
counterpoint to the warm
secret
fish,
caves,
adding
and
even
floating
more
fishing
casein to the
villages
meal.
enrich the
She plated the
journey,
salmon,
while
dolloped the yogurt
sunrise and
sauce,
sunset
and sprinkled
paint the
walnuts for
tranquil bay
crunch.
in golden
With the
hues,
first bite,
rendering
she
it
felt a
scene
subtle
of
electricity,
dreamlike
an
serenity.
awareness that
In
this
China,
plate carried
journey
everything
to
her
the
muscles,
iconic Great
bones,
Wall,
and joints had pleaded
stretching
for.
thousands of
Complete
miles
protein,
across wild
omega-3s,
mountains and rolling
vitamin D,
hills.
calcium,
The wall
magnesium,
is a testament
probiotics,
to human endurance
antioxidants.
and ambition.
No single supplement bottle
Walking
could
atop
match
its
such an
ancient
elegant,
stones,
edible
one
equation.
marvels not only
After
at the
dinner,
sweeping
she set
vistas,
her phone timer
but
for
also
10
at
minutes
the
and
engineering
climbed the
feats
staircase at a
achieved
measured
centuries
pace,
ago.
groceries in hand,
Towers
performing
punctuate
what
the
she
landscape,
jokingly called her
offering
salmon
viewpoints
steps.
to grassy
Each
valleys,
ascent asked the
blossoming
newly fed
orchards,
muscle fibers
and
to do their
rugged
job.
mountains reaching
Each
toward the
descent
horizon.
told her balance
No
systems
list
they were
of
still
beautiful
trusted.
sights would be
Halfway
complete
through, she
without
noticed something
mentioning the
delightful. Her
awe-inspiring
breath remained
Machu
easy,
Picchu in
her
Peru.
thighs steady.
Hidden
The
high in
storage
the
closet at the
Andes,
top suddenly
these Incan
closer than it
ruins
used to
sit
seem.
amid
The
cloud-shrouded
weekend brought
peaks
Claire's
and
family
verdant
over for
terraces.
movie night. Popcorn bowls lined the
journey
coffee
to reach
table,
Machu
but
Picchu,
Mrs. Harper
whether by
snuck
the
in her own
legendary Inca
twist.
Trail
Air-popped
through
kernels
winding
misted with
mountain
avocado
passes,
oil, then sprinkled with
adventure
nutritional
in
yeast
itself.
and a dusting of finely ground
Arriving at
walnuts and
sunrise,
flax.
when mist
The grandchildren
curls around
devoured
time-worn
handfuls,
stones,
oblivious
and
to the
first light
omega-3
touches
upgrade
ancient altar
hidden
and temple
beneath the
alike,
salty
is an
crunch.
experience
She
that
smiled at the
lingers
stealth
long
victory,
after departure.
strength disguised
Shift
as
focus
snack.
to South America's
Later,
natural
as credits
wonders,
rolled, her
where
grandson
Patagonia
Ethan curled
unfurls in
beside her
wild
and
splendor,
asked, "Grandma,
straddling Chile
how
and
come you always
Argentina.
walk the stairs after
This
dinner?"
remote region
She considered a
hosts
moment.
jagged granite
"Because
peaks,
muscles are like
windswept
stories,"
steps,
she said.
and
"They grow
crystalline
stronger
lakes
every
in
time you
hues of
repeat them."
turquoise and
Ethan nodded
indigo.
solemnly, perhaps
The Torres
understanding
del
more
Paine,
than she
Three
expected.
soaring
That
spires
night, she wrote in her
dominate the
journal,
skyline,
"Cottage cheese
while
plus
glaciers
flax
calve
before
into
bed,
teal waters
salmon
with
twice this
thunderous
week,
roars.
yogurt daily, stairs
Rare
nightly."
guanacos
She
graze
tested
the
her grip with a
grasslands,
handheld
and
dynamometer Claire
condors
had mailed
wheel
from the
overhead,
city,
their
5 pounds
presence
stronger
a
than
nod to
last
the
month.
enduring spirit of
Numbers
the wild.
pleased her,
Yet
but feeling
nature's
pleased her
wonders
more.
are not the
The
sole
ease of
dominion
rising from the low
continents.
sofa, the steadiness when she
Isolated
bent to
islands
leash the
boast
dog.
beauty all their
As
own.
autumn tipped toward winter, she knew
New
2
Zealand's
foods
Milford
still awaited
Sound,
their spotlight:
carved by ancient
lean
glaciers,
proteins prepared with
is a
care,
realm of
and a final
towering
section on
cliffs,
weaving everything
cascading
into an
waterfalls,
ordinary day.
and shimmering
But bedtime
fjord
called,
waters.
and the casein flax mixture
Early
was
morning
waiting.
mists
She
hover
spooned,
above the
swallowed,
mirror-like surface,
and felt the slow
and
bloom of
dolphins and
warmth
seals
as amino
sometimes
acids embarked on
accompany
their
boats
silent
through the
nighttime
calm.
voyage. If you have
The
been
keening
following her
cry of a
journey,
native
consider
bird
tonight
might
your
echo through
invitation
dense
to join.
rainforest,
A single
adding
habit
another
is
layer
enough.
of magic to
Perhaps
the
a
scene.
scoop of Greek
Cross
yogurt
to
swirled with
Africa,
honey, or a
where the
salmon fillet
savannas
on
and
Sunday,
mountains
or even
hold
just that
spectacles
teaspoon of
unlike
flax
any
stirred into
other.
soup. Small
The
acts,
Serengeti
consistently
in
repeated,
Tanzania
reshape
each
the
year
architecture of a
plays
life.
host to the
In our
Great
final part,
Migration,
we will gather the remaining
a tumult
threads,
of wildebeest
stitch them into a
and
daily
zebra
rhythm,
crossing
and stand
perilous
back to
rivers,
see the tapestry of
tracked
strength
by
it
lions
creates.
and crocodiles.
Until then, may your
At
midnight
sunrise,
muscles feast,
the
and your morning
grasslands glow
rise feel
gold,
lighter than yesterday.
while
Morning
solitary
arrived,
acacia
wrapped in pale
trees
winter sun,
cast long,
and Mrs. Harper
graceful
greeted it the way
shadows.
she had learned to greet possibility,
Mount Kilimanjaro
by standing,
rises
stretching
in the
slowly, and
distance.
asking her body,
Its
"What shall we
snow-capped
build
summit,
today?"
a beacon above
The answer
the
began, as
plains,
it often did now, in the
beckoning
kitchen.
adventurers
She cracked
to
2
test
eggs into a skillet,
themselves on
lightly
its
brushed with
slopes.
avocado oil,
There is also
watching the whites
haunting
turn opaque
beauty of
while the
Egypt's
yolks glowed
ancient
like
monuments,
promising coins.
where the
Beside the
pyramids
pan, a
of
slice
Giza
of whole grain
rise from
toast
the
waited,
desert sands
soon to be
as
topped with a thin
reminders
spread of
both
cottage
human
cheese left over from
ingenuity
last night's
and
casein ritual.
mystery.
A sprinkle of cracked
In
pepper,
their
a
shadow
tumble of blueberries on the
rests
side,
enigmatic
and breakfast
Sphinx,
was complete.
guardian
Protein
of
rich,
secrets millennia
antioxidant,
old.
bright, simple.
At dawn or
While
dusk,
she ate,
the
she flipped through her
pyramids
journal and
glow
traced a
against the
finger down
rosy
yesterday's
sky.
page.
A
Greek
vision
yogurt,
seemingly
mid-morning.
plucked from another
Brown
world.
rice and quinoa
Head to
pilaf
East
at lunch,
Asia once
garnished
more,
with walnuts
and
and
the cherry
steamed
blossoms
spinach.
of Japan
Salmon and
paint the
roasted carrots for
landscape in a
supper,
delicate
followed by a
blush
leisurely
each
climb
spring.
up and down the stairs.
Parks
In the
and
margin, she had doodled a
riversides
small
across
star
Kyoto,
next to an evening note.
Tokyo, and
Grip
beyond
strength plus
are
6 pounds since
transformed as
August.
petals drift
The
on
little
the
drawing
breeze
made her
like
smile.
snow,
Not a medal,
drawing
perhaps,
visitors
but it felt
from near
every
and
bit
far
as
to
valuable.
marvel at this
After
fleeting
breakfast, she pulled on the
spectacle,
boots and stepped onto the porch,
and to celebrate
breathing air
the
that
renewal
smelled faintly of
heralded by
fireplaces down the
each
street.
bloom,
The dog,
For those
an
drawn
aging
to
beagle named
color
Lucy,
and
wagged her tail and
architectural
trotted
wonder.
beside her as they set off on a
India's
brisk
Taj
loop.
Mahal
Muscles
shimmers
freshly
at
fueled by
sunrise.
eggs and blueberries responded
Its
with quiet
marble
confidence.
dome tinged
Halfway
with
round the
rose
block,
and
she
honeyed
paused,
gold.
inhaled, and let gratitude settle.
Nestled among
A gratitude
tranquil
not merely for
gardens
movement,
and reflecting
but for the knowledge that
pools.
movement could still
This
improve,
mausoleum
even now.
celebrates a love
Back
that
home, she
transcended
filled the
time
slow cooker with
itself
onions, celery,
and
diced
stands
tomatoes,
as a
white
jewel
beans,
of
and a
Mughal
modest portion of
artistry.
cubed lean beef trimmed of visible fat.
Travelers gaze
Years
in
ago, she might
wonder
have tossed
at
in
the
thick
delicate
bacon or
inlays,
marbled chuck.
the
Now she
symmetry,
understood that the
and
clean
the
protein in
ethereal
lean cuts
atmosphere
carried
that
leucine in
pervades
generous
the
amounts,
sight.
the very amino acid that
Especially
flips
when
the molecular
early
switch
morning
telling
mist
muscles to grow.
lends it an
A bay
unearthly
leaf,
aura.
a dash of thyme,
Venture
and the
to
soup began its
Australia,
gentle burble,
and the Great
promising
Barrier
comfort by
Reef
dinner.
beckons
Mid-afternoon
beneath
found her
sunlit
settling into the
waves.
easy chair with a small
This
glass of whey
vast,
protein
living
shake Claire had
mosaic
recommended,
stretches
unflavored,
over 1,800
stirred into almond milk,
miles,
and sweetened only
sheltering
by a splash of
kaleidoscopic
vanilla.
coral,
25 grams
inquisitive
of
sea
pure repair,
turtles,
delivered to
and
cells that had
shimmering
just
schools
completed
of
a
fish
light resistance
in
band
every
routine
hue
in the living room.
imaginable.
She flexed her elbows against the blue
Snorkelers
band,
and
felt
divers
triceps
slip
tighten,
silently
and imagined
among
each sip of
corals and
protein
anemones,
marching straight to those
drifting
fibers,
with currents
carrying
as
tiny
manta
banners that
rays
read,
and reef
"We
sharks glide
reinforce."
past.
Twilight painted the
An
kitchen windows lavender
unforgettable
as the
immersion
soup reached
into a
perfection.
world vibrant
She ladled a
and
hearty
alive.
bowl, topped
In
it with a
Iceland,
scattering of chopped
nature's
parsley,
power
and
is
sat
on
at the table with
dramatic
Lucy curled at
display.
her feet. The
The
broth
mighty
tasted of
Gullfoss
memory and
waterfall
progress
thunders
combined.
down
Humble
2 rocky
ingredients
tiers,
elevated by intent.
blanketing the
She
air
noticed
in
how
mist
easily
and
her hand
rainbows.
lifted the spoon. No tremor,
The
no
geothermal
fatigue,
area of
and she
Geysir
paused between bites to
pulses
appreciate the
with the
miracle
breath
of such
of
an
the earth,
ordinary motion.
while volcanic
After washing dishes,
landscapes
she
like the
prepared her
black
nightly
sands
cottage
of
cheese cup,
Rhenus Fiara
this time folding in a
and the
tablespoon
blue
of ground
ice of
walnuts and a
Vatnajökull
drip of
Glacier.
dark cherry juice.
Hint at
The flavor reminded her of
elemental
desserts from
forces
years gone
that
by.
shaped this
But
land.
now every component
At
served
night,
a purpose.
the sky
Casein for the
often
slow
comes
feed,
alive with the
omega-3s and
swirling ribbons
polyphenols
of the
as
northern
guardians,
lights,
natural melatonin from
painting
cherries to
greens
coax
and
restorative
purples
sleep.
across the darkness
She carried the
in a
bowl to her desk
celestial
and began
dance.
drafting a letter to her friend
Norway's
Irene in
fjords
Oregon,
etched
No,
deep blue fingers
telling the story
into
of foods that
mountainous
coaxed
coastlines,
muscles back to life.
framed by
Halfway
sheer
through the letter,
cliffs
she
and
realized she
emerald
was sitting
forests.
taller, shoulders drawn gently back,
Geirangerfjord
without conscious
and
effort.
Narreyfjord,
Posture, it seemed,
UNESCO
was
World
another
Heritage
silent
Sites,
dividend of regained
lured
strength.
travelers who
The
wished
evening
to sail
wound down with a
between
phone call from
snow-streaked
Ethan,
bluffs,
who reported proudly that he'd
past
added
tumbling
blueberries to his school
waterfalls
lunch
and
and could
graceful
already run
villages
faster at
with
recess.
turf-roofed
An
houses.
exaggeration, perhaps, but one that made
In
Mrs.
winter,
Harper laugh until her cheeks hurt.
The Nordic
She wondered
light
if, years
wraps
from now,
these valleys
he
in
would
a
remember this
soft,
conversation the
otherworldly
way she
glow.
remembered her mother's peaches
In
and
summer,
cottage
The
cheese.
midnight sun
Before bed, she
sets
opened the journal
stage
again
for
and wrote,
endless golden
Daily
hours.
rhythm, sunrise
Moving to the
eggs,
Middle
plus
East,
blueberries,
the
mid-morning
rose-red
yogurt
city of
or
Petra
shake, colorful lunch,
captivates all
grain,
who enter
green,
through its
lean
narrow
protein,
SIQ
walk,
canyon.
Lucy, bands or
Carved
stairs,
into sandstone
salmon or
thousands
soup,
of years
walnut
ago,
sprinkle, night,
Petra's
cottage
intricate
cheese, plus
facades,
flax, repeat
like the
kindness
treasury,
tomorrow.
that
She closed
iconic
the cover and
monument
rested her
framed
palms
by
upon
towering
it, feeling the
cliffs.
steady drum of her pulse beneath
Speak
skin
of an
that told
era
the story
when
of many
caravans
seasons yet
laden
carried the
with
vigor of
incense
new
and
beginnings.
silk crossed
Standing
the
at the
desert.
mirror, she tested one last
Exploring
ritual,
Petra is
rising
an
onto her
adventure
toes
in
10
lost
times while brushing
grandeur.
teeth. Calves
A
tightened but did
testament
not
to both
quiver.
nature's
Balance
artistry
held.
and
On the
ancient
final lift, she caught her
imagination.
reflection.
Towering
Silver hair,
waterfalls,
yes,
too,
but eyes
demand
bright with a
mention
mischievous
as
question.
some of Earth's
What if
most
next month feels
beautiful
stronger
sights.
still? Settling into bed,
Venezuela,
she felt the
Angel
slow warmth of
Falls,
casein
the world's
circulating,
tallest,
already
tumbles
feeding the night's
almost a
repairs.
kilometer from
Outside,
the summit
wind
of
rustled dry
Alyan
leaves,
Tepuy.
and she imagined each leaf
The
a
journey
worn-out
to
muscle
reach
fiber
it
drifting
weaves
away,
through
making room for
rainforest and
something
river.
sturdier. If you have walked beside her through this story, perhaps you, too, are picturing tomorrow's plate, tomorrow's gentle stair climb, tomorrow's line in a fresh journal. Choose one change. Maybe that spoonful of flax in oatmeal or the salmon you've passed by 100 times. Let it be your first brick. And when you feel the slightest victory, one extra second balancing on one foot, one easier rise from the couch, whisper it aloud. Muscles, like memories, grow stronger when acknowledged. Should this journey resonate, share your chosen first step in a note below. Your small declaration may spark another traveler's courage. And if you wish these quiet lessons to find you each week, you know where the subscribe button rests, waiting like an open doorway. For now, turn off the light and trust the food already making its silent rounds within you. Sleep, knowing your body is still a tireless builder and that you have become its best architect. In the soft darkness, Mrs. Harper offered one final thought, a thought that might cradle you as well. Strength is not the province of the young. It belongs to whoever nurtures it. Tonight, that caretaker is you.